Makes sense to look on the lower time frame, uh, but it definitely makes sense to watch Apple here, right? And obviously, Apple moving higher, and it was expected out of Apple to move higher, and we are still expecting Apple to go all the way up here to hit this mean again around 130 to 60, 130 to 70, and this is where I was getting my numbers from. And this is the 1 hour chart, and we knew it was going to go hit this number at around 130, 160, and that's what the note I put out there. And it hit that number and taking a breather from there. How deep of a breather? It could come back down to 131. Uh, yeah, could possibly come back down to 131. And if that breaches, same story. Five, then the eight. 131 is just a number. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not actually the 131 number. It's actually this technical here. This moving average. If it comes down there, it hits that and start to bounce again. Fair enough. If it reaches there, then you come back down to the eight, right? And the same cycle here, the oversold, overbought, oversold, overbought. Same thing happening, and then you watch the RSI. Obviously, it is hitting a major resistance here. RSI is over the top here, so that makes sense for it to take a breather, and that's just what I put out in the note. And as long as Apple is moving higher, you'll find markets moving higher, and that is exactly what is happening with the ES futures right now. And Apple needs to clear this resistance here for it to move to the upside. And as and when it clears this resistance to the upside, we'll probably see Apple test this 21 and the mean on the daily. Both are at the same time, same number here as of now. That could change as the day goes by. And the reason that I was looking for an upside is still MACD is crossed to the upside here, right? So hopefully we should test this number again today. And the thesis says that if you test the mean, very likely bright chances of it testing the upper inner Bollinger Band, which is right now sitting at about 135. And as and when the data gets populated, that might change, might go up, might go down. But that's the technical that I'm watching next if it clears the mean. But the hope is that it will hit the mean. And now a couple of things here. The first thing, the first and foremost, and this is very clear, your audio is different there. It sounds far. Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you. And that should be better. I did pull out my mic yesterday, so probably that was the reason. Thank you for letting me know. Is it better now? Oh, sorry about that again. So, and just in case anybody did not catch it, this is what I was watching for Apple. Apple is still 8 over 21, and the bounce here, it was pretty much expected, and the stop here or the resistance here, it was pretty much expected around 161, sorry, 130, 160. That's what I put out in my note, and that's what is happening, hitting that number, taking a breather. The breather could last very well into 131, whatever this number is, wherever this number would land. Or if you are trading it on a lower time frame, which is much better to monitor here. Whether you go, if you're scalping, go on the 3 minute time frame or the 5 minute time frame, any which way that you're comfortable with your risk profile. And 5 and 8, usually this is what happens if you're trading on a lower time frame. 5, 8, if that breaches, then you're looking forward for further downside around 131. And if you're watching here, very likely it's going to come back down and test this number about 130, 126. That breaches, very likely a bounce here at around 130, 120 area, 25 area. Then if that breaches, then 131.12 area. Of course, we still have two more 15-minute candles before actually the market opens. And right now it's a 9:15 candle. That's a 9 o'clock candle. After this 9 o'clock candle, you'll have another candle, 9:15 candle. Probably that candle might give it a bounce around 131.20 area. Cool. Now all of this, and this is the reason of course, Microsoft is doing the same thing. It is bouncing, and that is the reason you see futures moving higher. Now, coming back to the futures, and then as Apple is taking a breather, futures are taking a breather here. Very likely, it's going to come back down to 39.51. That breaches. I'm expecting a bounce around here, 39.49. If that breaches, the mean is sitting at about 39.43, and if that breaches, 39.41. 39.40. That would mean about 39.20 area on what is this, SPX. If so right now 39.53. So SPX, if SPX opens now, it would be opening at about 39.20 area, 39.22, 39.20, between 39.22 to 39.25 area. That's where it would be opening right now. And if it comes back down, probably 39.41 area. So that would be about 39.20-ish to 39.22-ish on SPX. So what does that mean? Not really plotting anything below as of now, 39.40 on ES. So that would be about 39.20-ish on SPX. So if SPX breaches below 39.20-ish, then we will reassess the SPX another probably 10 points lower into 39 or maybe about 39.14-ish, 39.14, 39.15. That area will hold. It has to hold for now for any further upside. And if that breaches, this is where we'll start to look for a real downside, right? I'm not really expecting it to breach here below 39 on the SPX, at least below 39.28. Sorry, on the ES, below this 50 moving averages here. This is the 50 MA. This is the 50 EMA. So 39.28 looks like a line in the sand. So we want to watch this number to the downside. Um, and that will only come into picture if it breaches below 39.40. This is the ES, and take down about 20 points from where it is right now. You will get to the SPX numbers. Right. So 39, 30, 39.28 area. If you take about 20 points from there, 39.08 area. That needs to hold for SPX. If it breaches below there, then we'll obviously reassess the situation. To the upside, we are still looking at a hit of this number right about here, 39.93 on the ES side of things. So 39.93, let's round that about at 4,000. So 39.80, 39.80 area is what I'm looking at for ES. That's the upside. Not really plotting anything above that as of now. It would be. I'm not sure how convenient, how comfortable I'm looking at this number. I even if I'm looking at this number to get tested, 39.93 to 4,000 on ES. That would mean about 39.80 to 39.73 on SPX. Even though I'm looking at it, but I'm not sure how comfortable I am holding that trade. Right? Big, and the reason that I have a very good reason for that. That reason would be tomorrow is CPI number, right? And how many people would paper hand that? And paper handing is a real thing. So for the price to hold, people need to hold the price, right? The other side of the trade, whoever that that could be a system, that could be a person. That trade, somebody needs to hold the other side of the trade. If that other person or other side of the trade is paper handing it, there's no point looking at it. And I'm pretty sure that going into tomorrow's print, there will be a lot of paper hands. Probably people would be looking to hedge on either side of trades, whatever it is. So if CPI comes in better than expected, I'm expecting SPX or rather ES to blast through this thing, very likely push into 40.23 and very likely end up somewhere about here at 40.76. So that would leave us with 40.50 on or close to 40.50 on SPX if things go the way that we are expecting it to go, i.e., the inflation coming back down drastically. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be, in a clear and pushing to the upside. I don't think so. The real problem would be the earnings contraction. If that happens, that again remains to be seen. The first shot of earnings, the banks would come out on Friday, day after CPI. So if the bank paints a more stable outlook, then very, very, very likely, I think it's going to be. I think the lows are very much in for the year. I think and I think the year will end up somewhere close to, I don't know, 4,500 to 4,700, very likely on, yeah, on SPX again. But again, it depends largely on the CPI and then banks commentary. And then going forward, we'll see how Apple does, and of course, a lot of it depends on how the big tech performs. But if the CPI comes in lighter than expected, at least we can expect the central banks to calm down with their hiking cycle. that would mean that there is a floor under the market, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to. This line here, this black line, this 50 moving average on the week. So this line should act as very decent resistance. And if this line clears meaningfully, then very likely scenario is that the market downturn is done. Right? Very, very, very likely that's where it will tell me that the downturn probably is coming to an end, or already has ended. If a close above this number, that's where we are looking to probably go long meaningfully to the upside, probably into 4260. That's a story for a longer period of time. But for now, this is what we are looking at. If the CPI comes in better than expected, expecting a hit of 40-20 area, then after that, very likely 40-50 area. Cool. And I am actually situated, my trades are actually somewhere about here within these two lines to the upside. The downside, we are still tracking if it comes back down after CPI or during the CPI 3874, and then very likely again come back down to this 3800 on the 3816 on ES. That would mean about 3800, back to that 3800 level on SPX. And if the earnings contraction happens, then very likely SPX will push down all the way back down here into 3670 area. And this is a larger picture. And if that comes down here, and if Apple starts to push down below that 120 threshold, then very likely SPX will come back down into this 3550. And we are still expecting, if Apple starts to show weakness, then we are still expecting it to come back down into this 3600. So the 50 moving average on the month is the downside uh, floor, and the upside is 50 moving average on the week. That's the game. That's how the game will be played. And I'm situated right here on the upside. And downside, I am lighter on the downside, but I'm still here with the downside, because anything that pushes, let's say if the CPI comes in hotter than expected, or or if the market perceives the CPI to be negative, going forward for the economy, then it will start to push down. And even if it comes down here to 3800, these will be appreciating pretty decent. So that's the idea here. Cool. And we discussed Apple, the reason, and all right, DXY on a longer term, I'm still expecting it to push to the downside. Let's see the monthly chart here. I'm still expecting it to come back down probably here into 102.80. That reaches. Very likely it will come back into 101.70, 101.80. This is the picture on the higher time frame, and MACD is about to cross over here on the monthly. So I think there is some room to the downside. However, that, and also take a look at this chart, the 10-year. Same thing. I think it has breached below the monthly five, then very likely it's going to go hit this monthly eight. And it did test that number previous month and bounce off of that number. Very likely we're going to see this number get tested again, 3.44. A lot of it depends on tomorrow's number. If the CPI print comes in lighter than expected, I'm expecting it to come back down here and test this 3.41 area and probably breach below there. I mean, as of now, if the CPI comes in lighter than expected, way lighter than expected, then you will see an immediate breach below this eight on the month. If not, then it's going to go down slowly. If the number is expected to trend down, then this number is expected to go down slowly. How far down will it go? I'm not sure. The monthly mean is sitting at about 2.4. I don't think that is in my base case that the 10-year will go down into 2.5, 2.4. I don't think that's going to happen, simply because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, because the Fed funds rate would be much higher than the 10-year. So that doesn't make sense, all right? Technicals are there for that to happen, but that doesn't make sense. So we're going to hold, at least I'm going to hold off on that idea that it's going to come back down into 2.5 or something. Maybe, let's reassess the situation after. In fact, if it breaches the 8, then let's reassess the situation. Let's go back into the weekly chart. So look at the DXY, and even with the pressure from the 10-year, DXY is not moving meaningfully lower, simply because it is oversold here on the week, right? So we want to see this thing resolve. How will it resolve? I'm not sure. Either it needs to come back up around 104, clear that 104, and probably test this 104.70. That might resolve the technicals a bit, but then after that, I think there is still room to the downside. Probably sub 100 would be a pretty decent number for DXY. But let's see. That's not the base case as of now. But let's see this thing get resolved for any meaningful move to the downside further. So maybe if maybe today, if we hit this 103.60 area, that would again be a that should again act as a decent resistance, and that should get pushed down from there. But if it clears here, then very likely it's going to hit this 103.78. However, one thing, and then I think tomorrow, this is tomorrow's story perhaps, but as long as you have Apple moving to the upside, nothing will actually matter. Neither DXY or, and of course, if DXY moves higher, uh, very likely Apple will move lower. But even if Apple moves lower, I'll still be looking to go to the upside because of this cross on daily. It might start to form a trend. Right. Okay. And let's get into Tesla here. So I'm still long Tesla. I'm still holding Tesla. No worries there. Very likely Tesla will test this number right about here, 123.48 to 123.50 area. Let's reassess further upside, and it's the same story here. The crossover has happened for Tesla. How sustainable it is depends on bank earnings, depends on CPI and all of that data. But if it were a different time, and if it were not to be this data dependent, or inflation data dependent, or other data dependent, I would be simply longing it here. Very easy trade actually. Coming back down, getting oversold, simply long it here, but see the mean reversion get done, then exit the trade. This would have been a very simple trade, but given the circumstance, you have to always keep an eye on your how do you want to secure this position. Probably get some shorter data puts. That's how you secure this position. So I'm still expecting it to push higher, probably 123.78. Let's round that at 124. That clears, the mean reversion would complete around 131. Probably not a story for tomorrow, but if the CPI comes in lighter than expected, I'm expecting Tesla to hit this number. And obviously, if it clears here, then very likely scenario is going to end up somewhere about here. But then again, that is again a story if CPI comes in lighter than expected. Right. So technically, again, if it were a different time, if I were to be shown only these two charts, and if I did not know anything else, I would simply go long, probably full for Tesla, almost here into 131, 132. That clears very likely into 145 area, right? And I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I want to be using that pretty sure word, but pretty sure words, but yeah, that's what technical suggests. Last time, the it was half of these, half of where it is right now in oversold conditions. It gave us a full cycle, and if this time around, if it gives a full cycle and goes all the way up here into the mean reversion, that would be awesome, about 200. But not really expecting 80-point rally. Uh, but if it, hopefully, I'm my understanding is that hopefully I'm going to get this number about 129.70, 130. This is what I'm considering given the circumstance. But I'll be happy to take the 8 here at 144. And again, if the CPI comes in hotter than expected, and if the selling resumes in Tesla, then very likely it's going to go down all the way here, 87. And again, I'll be a buyer of this Tesla around 86, 87. Probably I'll sell some puts. I'll take position here. Again, the same thing comes back up. Use sell calls and secure the position. Same thing, same trade. Hopefully this is the idea here. 158. Right. Okay. Tesla on the 1 hour. Be moving higher. Okay, there you go. It's moving higher. So expecting Tesla, if it clears here, the next spot very likely is 123.84 to 124.60 to 124.50. Very likely it's going to take a breather between about 124. to 124.50 area. This is where I'm watching. This is very likely where I'll exit majority of my position. If I Majority of my position, or probably look to sell some puts here. Not looking to actively short it, but looking to sell. Sorry, it's looking to sell calls. If it comes back down, I'll be profitable on those calls. Uh, but yeah, looking for a breather around here between 124 to 124.50 area to the upside. Downside, let's see, it's detached from its 120.73, and Apple is still unable to clear that resistance. Yeah, Apple is still struggling here. Where's the 1 hour chart? Yeah, Apple is still struggling here. If Apple clears this to the upside, then obviously Tesla will also start to move to the upside. But to the downside, the 5 is sitting at 120.80. That reaches very likely a bounce here if it comes down to 120.80 area. That breaches 120.22. That breaches the mean is sitting at about 119. 13, 119.30 area. Probably will look for all those bounces, and if Apple starts to give up, then very likely Tesla will come back down into this 117 area again. And if if Apple starts to sell off, and this is where I'll again look for another bounce for Tesla as well, 115 area. Basically, the 50 moving average on the hour. This is what I'm watching. So 200 moving average to the upside, 50 moving average to the downside. That's the game I'll be playing with Tesla today. Right, and I'm being very nimble with my positions. Given tomorrow is the CPI, I'm expecting a lot of paper handing today. So let's see if it holds. Very nice. If it doesn't hold, I'll be very, very, very nimble with things today. All right. Anybody, anything in particular? What does it say? Isn't ESRSI overbought on the daily? I don't see it. Well, it is overbought. It is definitely overbought. But you want to see what is happening with the Apple before you. This is simply an index, right? This is simply an index, and if you have the components which make up this index moving to the higher side, then obviously index will move along to the higher side. On the week, it's still not there. We still have room to the upside. And tomorrow being the one of the biggest report of the year, probably turning point in the market. Yeah, tomorrow is very likely going to be a turning point in the market, or perception of the market participants. And so this is my thinking is that CPI will come in lighter than expected, and day after tomorrow we'll hear from the banks. So that would solidify the picture whether whether we are expecting another push to the downside, or I think very likely I think the market will stabilize. I'm not really looking at another new low for the year, at least as of now where things stand. Probably we are looking for some chop around the first half, and 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 very likely looking to push to the upside in the second half of this year. When you say nimble of your paper hands today, are you saying lighter? Very light, very, very light. So even though if you're going heavy, right? Even if though let's say you're going to buy a lot, one when I say lot, I mean 100 contracts. I would be looking for that 5 to 10 point burst and exit that lot, right? That's how I've been trading for the past at least this past 10 days, and that's how I expect it to trade going forward till the CPI clears, and we have some understanding of which way the market will trend. When I say trend, that is again a larger time frame, referring to a larger time frame. But meanwhile, within the given circumstance, within this chop, these 5 point 10 point bursts, I'm trading heavy on those. Probably I'm scaling up to 50 to 100 contracts. I haven't traded 100 contracts yet in this year, but definitely 50 and above, I'm trading those that size for those very clean shots, 5 to 10 points, and the contract moves about 20 to 30% within that. Sometimes it moves better than 30%. I've seen, I think, last rally that I've seen that 15 points move on, rather, yeah, 12-point moves on SPX. The contract was appreciating about close to 50%. That's all I'm looking at. I take a 50 to 50 contract position, let it move 50%, exit that position. All right, cool. 5 minutes to the open. Let's move into live trading.